Once upon a time, on a cold New Year's Eve, a poor little girl walked through the dark streets. She was bareheaded and barefoot. When she had left home, she had slippers on, but they were too large for her small feet, and she lost them when she hurried across the street to avoid some carriages. Now, the little girl walked with her tiny naked feet that were red and blue with cold. She carried a bundle of matches in her hand, and she tried to sell them. Matches! Matches for sale! She called out, but no one paid attention to her. All day, she had not sold a single match, and she was so hungry. As the snow fell on her golden hair, which curled around her neck, she thought of how warm it would be if she could just light one of the matches. But she dared not. She had to sell them to bring money home. At last, she sat down in a corner between two houses. She felt so cold. Her little hands were almost frozen. She thought, maybe a match will warm me up. She struck one match against the wall. It blazed up brightly, and she held her hands over the flame. It was a wonderful, warm light like a little candle. In her imagination, she saw a large, warm iron stove. She stretched out her feet to warm them. But just then, the flame went out, and the stove disappeared. She was sitting there with a little burnt match in her hand. She struck another match. This time, she imagined she was sitting before a delicious feast. There was a table laid out with a roasted goose stuffed with apples and prunes. Just as she reached out for the food, the match went out, and there was nothing left but the cold, dark street. She lit a third match, and she saw a beautiful Christmas tree. It was larger and more decorated than any she had ever seen. Hundreds of candles burned on its green branches, and colorful decorations hung from the tree. As she reached out to touch the lovely tree, the match went out, and the lights of the Christmas tree rose higher and higher until they looked like the stars in the sky. One of those stars fell down, leaving a bright streak of light behind it. Someone is dying, the little girl thought, for her grandmother had once told her that when a star falls, a soul goes up to God. She struck another match, and this time she saw her dear grandmother, the only person who had ever been kind to her. "Grandmother," she cried, "take me with you." The match went out, but the little girl quickly lit another one. She did not want her grandmother to disappear. She struck match after match because she wanted to keep seeing her grandmother.